After American blues, jazz, boogie-woogie, and other styles provided a foundation, the initial explosion of rock and roll in the mid-1950s was spearheaded by the likes of Elvis Presley, Bill Haley, Chuck Berry, and Little Richard. Then came Buddy Holly and the Crickets, whose catchy original songs, cohesiveness as a band, and entirely unglamorous image forever changed the rules of rock and roll.
I love to last more than one day.
Buddy's songs were incredibly simple, incredibly melodic. You could listen to them once and go away singing.
I've always kind of said that this part of his hand was country and this part of his hand was R&B. And he made them work somehow.
What he influenced as far as like Bob Dylan and the Beatles and Bruce Springsteen, Van Morrison, all these people have said that they pretty much started making music because of Buddy Holly.
You know, we had just come off Presley, and he wasn't quite as, he was still huge, but not quite as huge as the faster dance music that Buddy Holly was playing right then, and we loved that sound.
Thank God for American Pie and Don McLean, but I disagree with him, obviously, and you can see tonight the music didn't die.
The 1959 Winter Dance Party that stopped at the Surf Ballroom in Clear Lake featured an entire lineup of promising young rock musicians, in addition to Holly.
We all had different brands of rock and roll. I was from the Bronx, so I had this New York City kind of approach. Richie Valens was Chicano from the Barrio, from the San Fernando Valley out in LA. And I identified a lot with his passion, his, you know, his Latino passion, you know, that rhythm, and he had a way of doing stuff. And Buddy Holly was from Lubbock, Texas. So he had another way of doing it.
Back then, the guitar strings were like piano strings almost. They're really hard and heavy, but that's how you got that really big fat tone that you hear on Dalby today and stuff. And a lot of strings today for guitars are really thin gauge, so they can do all these fancy noodling and bending and stuff. But the genius about him was that he was able to create leads almost out of a chord structure, so there wasn't a lot of bending going on, but he had just like a clarion type of a sound that I wanted to try to duplicate.
Really nothing to that, but the way he, well, it's just, I still get tired. It's like, okay, I got it. Or like a rhythm like Not Fade Away. You know? He's a lot of this as opposed to a lot of this, you know, so it's that. It's capturing that. I mean, that's where that energy comes from.
Hello, baby. Yeah, this is Big Buffalo speaking.
And right then, my favorite song, Chantilly Lace. You know, the Chantilly lace and a pretty face and a ponytail hanging down. Something about that song, you know, was just awesome.
If Dad had survived, Chantilly Lace, I think, would have been one of those songs where you'd have gone, what was his first hit? That, you know, but because he died and that song was so hot, that's the one that lives.
Although Holly Valens and the Bopper did die in a 1959 plane crash, fans and musicians alike still hear the Winter Dance Party's influence in today's artists.
As it goes on, it mutates into everything that we celebrate today, everything up to hip-hop, which is hard for a lot of people to understand, but hip-hop is nothing more than rhythm and blues 50 years later.
Chuck Berry, Fats Domino, Eddie Cochran, Gene Vincent, Buddy Holly, Bo Diddley, you know, I mean, all of these people, the doo-wop sound, it was a spoke in the wheel that just keeps on running. You know, it doesn't matter if it's the year 3000, you'll still hear those songs.
As long as the people still talk about the Beatles, people will still talk about Buddy Holly. They're forever connected now. Even if people don't realize it, they are one and the same.
And I believe even when the generation that were the teenagers in the 50s, for the most part, pass on, the music will endure because it was the start of rock and roll. So anytime anyone traces the roots of rock and roll, you're always going to come back to the 50s.
Thank you so much. We'll see you in January, yeah.